Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ask a KNEXpert Q&A, where we think outside the box to answer all of your K'NEX related questions. My name is John, and I'm the lead K'NEX designer at Basic Fun, and also your friendly neighborhood K'NEXpert. Today, we're actually going to build one of our newest K'NEX sets. This is item number 12468, the KNEXosaurus Rex in green. It has 255 pieces, includes a motor, and also includes the instructions for two different builds, which is kind of cool. So, I'll unbox this set, we'll take a look at the pieces, and then at the end, I'll go through some tips and tricks to make sure that your KNEXosaurus works as well as possible. All right, let's get started.
Okay, so the first step is really separating out all of the pieces. I tend to put them in clear plastic bins just so that way they don't roll around the table and that way they're contained as you build. So now that that's complete, I'm going to take the instruction book and we're just going to open up to page 1. First page really just goes over important safety information, but also how to install the batteries into the motor. I'll go over that right now. Here is the motor, and then this is a tethered motor, which means the battery compartment is separate. And so to install the batteries, you just need something to press this outer edge here to open up the cover. And so you can use your thumb, but at the same point too, if you're limited in your dexterity or your hand strength, you can just use anything like a coin or even just this little Allen wrench I have right here. You can just press that open. Now this motor takes 2 AA batteries, so I'm just going to put this one in here and then another one in just like so. Okay, now I'm just going to take that cover again and then you're good to go. Just test it out. One direction, center switch stops, and the opposite direction. There we go. Okay, the next page here, page 3, this just goes over building basics, how the pieces work together and snap together. Also about spacers and also the importance of 4-slot and 7-slot connectors. They just go together like so. These pieces allow 2D shapes to be turned into 3D objects. This is your entire part list for the set. Double check to make sure that all of the pieces listed are included in your set. If you're missing any pieces, go to basicfun.com, support to K'NEX, and then this is set 12468. And if requesting any additional parts or missing pieces, just use this number on the fine print underneath each part. Now we're at the beginning of step 1. Let's start here. The first thing I'm going to do is bring the motor onto the page here, and I'm just going to build on top of the image. I'm going to take this dark gray rod, and I'm going to put that right through the center of the motor, and you're going to hear a click. All right, that's good to go. Now what I'm going to do is build one of these side panels here, which is essentially this assembly right here. And all I'm going to do is take pieces listed in the top of this page here. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to take this green connector and go green rod, 7 connector, then one of these tan rods, another green 4 connector. Got 4 positions. And then just take this last green rod. Okay, and then I've got a duplicate already over here that will go on the other side. Now what I'm going to do is take this long tan rod. There's only one of them in the set. And I'm going to do a cross snap, which instead of doing a connection where it's end to end like this, that's more or less a standard connection. I'm going to rotate the rod to its side, and that connector is essentially going to bite like so. And it's a little tricky to do, but you'll hear that click, and then that's a nice and strong, secure connection. Then what I'm going to do is take the motor with this rod, and I'm just going to let that rod thread through this gray connector here. Then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. and just connect like so. We're going to have another cross snap connection right here. There we go. And then we're just going to slide that rod so it's more or less even. Then I'm going to take one of these gray rods, that's this size here, and you'll notice that in the motor there are these holes where rods can pass through. And so I'm just going to line that up and slide the rod through the green connector all the way to the other side. And then I'm going to take a single gray connector and press that on. That will lock that motor in place in relation to the rest of those sub-assemblies. Then what I'm going to do is take one of these gray 2 connectors and do a cross snap here. And then that's going to cross snap onto this rod that serves as the axle for the motor. And then I just need to do that on the other side. This has already been completed here. And then what I'm going to do is just make this connection over here. And so essentially what you've created is a camshaft. And so what happens is that as the motor turns, this creates a point of rotation that's off center and 90 degrees to this one. And so if I turn the motor on, you're going to get an up and down motion or a rotational motion on either side of the motor. And that's essentially what allows the KNEXosaurus to walk. I've put off to the side what we've just completed. So now we're going to actually create the feet and the legs of the KNEXosaurus. And so what I'm going to start off with is just creating this side section over here. And so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take one of those 7-slot connectors and 4 slots and just slide those together. You'll hear the click. And then I'm going to add green rods to serve as the toes. All right, that's looking good. Then I'm going to go with a tan rod. Then I'm going to take a dark gray 5 connector and take 2 green rods. Then a 3 green connector, another green rod, another tan rod, then another 5 connector, a green rod, green 3 connector, green rod. Then I'm going to take this gray connector and this black connector, and these are a little unique because when pressed together, they actually form a hinge piece, so that will rotate and hinge just like so. All right, I'm going to add that onto the assembly. I'm going to take another green rod, then a 5 connector, green rod, tan rod, green 3 connector, green rod, and then I'm going to take another 4-slot and 7-slot connector, use more green rods for the toes, and then I'm just going to connect this on like so. All right, so that's one side of legs done, and then I've created another one over here. Doesn't matter which side goes where, they're the same. And so what you'll notice in this step is that there is this secondary assembly that needs to be attached. And so we'll make 2 more hinge pieces. You'll hear that click. Okay, we'll do a cross snap to a tan rod. Then we'll attach to a gray rod here. Okay. Then to that hinge piece. And then this will cross snap onto here. All right, that's good to go. So then I'm gonna bring our assembly from the first step in, and then we're gonna need some spacers, as you can see here. So I'm just going to put 4 of these spacers on this gray rod. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm gonna slide this green connector over that rod, and then this 5 connector through this back tan rod. I'm going to take these pieces here. These are called rod cons, short for rod connectors. And then I'm just going to cross snap onto there. And then here, I just need a spacer first. And then that will attach just like so. All right, now I'm just gonna do that for the other side. Now that both sets of the legs are attached to the main body of the KNEXosaurus, we're just gonna test them out. So I'm just gonna put the power to the motor. All right, the motion looks good. So then we'll actually just let it walk. All right, so far so good. For page 6, we're essentially going to build the tail of the KNEXosaurus, and essentially the tail is made out of a number of segments that all get assembled together. So let's start off with step number 6 up at the top. All we're gonna do is start off with a 3 connector green, and then we're gonna take a tan rod, and we're just gonna do a center cross snap. And so use both your thumbs, press against the green connector, and you'll hear that snap. Now, if you are limited with your hand strength or your dexterity, you can use a pair of needle nose pliers to help you out. So I've got a pair like this right here. Put one jaw of the pliers through the center hole of the connector, then put the top jaw on top of the rod and just press. And that will give you that extra mechanical advantage to make the assembly happen. Now that the green connector is in place, I'm going to take a single gray connector and thread the hole through the rod. Then I'm going to take another single gray connector and I'm going to do a cross snap. And essentially I've created this sub-assembly here. And so what I'm going to do now is make 8 of those. Now that I have 8 of these complete of the assembly number 6, I'm just going to make one assembly of number 7. So I'm going to take another one of those green 3 connectors, a tan rod, and then take a 1 connector. And that's all it is. And that's going to be used down here as the end piece. So then for step number 8, I'm going to start out with this piece here. And so all I'm going to do then is take another one. And this is essentially how these are going to interface. But to do that, I just need to use a tan rod. So I'm going to slide that through. And then I'm just going to cross snap onto that rod. And once that's done, that creates a segment that's connected, but can also rotate freely and swing. And so I'm just going to keep doing that. All right, and then on this last one here, just going to do the same thing. And that will be our end piece. All right, that looks really good. Step number 9, I'm going to take a 3 connector, cross snap a tan rod, then thread a 1 connector, take another green 3 connector, but I'm going to do a different cross snap position on the end point. And then there'll be a green rod here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Take a tan rod, thread that through. This cross snaps on. That looks good as well. Then when we go down to step 10, same thing. Tan rod, gray 1 connector, cross snap. And then I'm just going to add these extra details, essentially these spikes. And these are standard connections, not cross snaps. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 and 6. Then I need a few more of the green rods. Okay, there's going to be 4 of those, so 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And then there's just going to be those 2 tan rods at the end here. All right, and that completes page number 6. That finishes the tail. Okay, so now we're on page number 7, and what we're going to tackle first is this assembly up here. Just a general note when it comes to K'NEX instructions, if something is grayed out or ghosted, that means that part of the build was already completed in a previous step. So in terms of what we'll be building in this page will be 11 and 12. And so we'll assemble those from the pieces noted up here. What we're building here is essentially the back or the back spine of the KNEXosaurus. And so just to give a little better idea of what that looks like. Then I'm going to slide these 2 near the center. And then I'm going to do a cross snap out here as well. Then I'm going to connect some green rods, and I'm going to do these 2 sides in parallel as I go. All right, now I'm going to take a gray rod and do a cross snap. That's going to just add some structure and some strength between the 2 sections. Then I'm going to add some green rods here. And so really, this is just a zigzag, a repeating pattern that keeps going till the end here. And so then you'll notice there's another gray rod that gets cross-snapped here. Just going to add that in. And then another green 3 connector. We're going to do a center cross snap. There we go, and just center that out. Usually with cross snaps, the connectors can easily slide back and forth. So then I'm just going to keep going with the green rods and then green connectors. I'm going to add 2 more green rods going down. These will be the attachment points to the main body of the KNEXosaurus. I'm going to take another gray rod and cross snap right at the edge here. Right, that looks good. And then just another cross snap over here. Now that this section is completed, I'm going to put this off to the side here. Here's the main walking portion of the KNEXosaurus. So what I'm going to do is just take the tail, the end portion here, and the end portion of this back ridge. And I'm just going to make this connection here. Okay, so now the back ridge and the tail are connected. Now I'm going to take this portion and connect that to the main body. So you'll see this rod here, this here, and then if I flip the KNEXosaurus over, I'm going to do the same thing. All right, that presses together there. And so then you'll notice there's this green rod sticking out here connected to the tail. What I'm going to do is just take this hinge piece and press those two together to make that connection. And then what that does is when you turn the motor on, when the legs move, the back and forth motion will make the tail wag back and forth. Just like so. All right, that completes page number 7. So at this point, we're just about nearing the end of the build, and really we're creating now the head and the neck of the KNEXosaurus. This is a very similar pattern to the tail, but a little shorter and probably a little bit easier. Let's start off with number 14 here. And again, we're just going to take a green 3 connector, tan rod, press that together. Thread a single gray 1 connector, and then cross snap another gray 1 connector. And so I'm just going to create 3 of those. All right, that looks good. Then for step number 15, another gray 3 connector, or green 3 connector, and then the tan rods. All right, that looks good. Then for step number 16, I'm going to thread a tan rod through. There's a single gray connector, and then a green 3 connector. That'll go on top. So then if I go down to 17, I take the assembly I just completed, thread a tan rod through, cross snap, another tan rod, cross snap through. That looks good. And then another tan rod, and just cross snap. So then essentially you've got these 4 different segments. So now what I'm going to do is take another tan rod, and at the bottom of this rod, I'm going to do a standard connection with a 5 connector. I'll put a green rod at the end here, and then I'm going to cross snap one of these green 3 connectors, and that should hold together just fine. Now essentially I'm going to create the face, and to do this, I'm going to use a green 4 connector. So again, you can count 4 different openings here. Standard connection with a green rod, another green rod, then a 3 connector. Then I'm going to take this tan rod, a black connector, slide that off to the end here. That will thread into the 4 connector. And then I'm going to take one of these round pieces here. It has a through hole. And I'm just going to slide that on. There's not going to be a connection. That's just going to be, or you're not going to hear a click when that connection happens. It's just a friction fit. That will connect into here. And then really that's going to be the left side of the KNEXosaurus's face. And then I'm just going to duplicate the other half to create the other side. Okay, there we go. And so then all I'm gonna do here in step number 19 is just add a few more of these rods. I connect along the neck. All right, now that I have the rest of them, those just connect in place. All right, so now we have a completed neck and head for the KNEXosaurus. We've reached to the last page, page number 9. And so for this, all I'm gonna do is bring in the main body of the KNEXosaurus, and you're gonna see this tan rod sticking up here. That's the connection point with the head and neck assembly. So, if I just take this 3 connector, this is the opening here, that's gonna cross snap onto here. And so I'm just gonna push, you'll hear that click. And I'm just gonna make sure this swivels smoothly. And it looks like we're good. All right, let's give it a test.
All right, I hope that was helpful. Like and subscribe below so you don't miss out in the next episode. Also, leave us a comment if you have questions you'd like answered on Ask a KNEXpert Q&A. My name is John, reminding you to think outside the blocks with K'NEX.